So our opening panel this morning, we're going to be looking at changes in the St. Louis area that are creating a growing demand for project management professionals. Recently, there was a study conducted by Anderson Economic Group on the demand of project management for project management skills in the next 10 years, basically from 2010 to 2020. Their estimate is that there will be 750,000 project management jobs created by 2020, and that's in the U.S. So we want to take a look at some of the areas in this area in which we can expect growth in terms of project management demand. Our three panelists this morning are Jim Brasunas, who is the Executive Director of the IT Entrepreneur Network, Jim LaChance. Let's see. Jim, your title goes on for a while, actually. Jim is Group Manager for Transportation Support in the Center for Clinical Excellence at BJC Healthcare. And Tom Rice is Senior Director of Cybersecurity and Technology and Planning for Ameren, Missouri. These gentlemen have a lot to tell you, so I'm going to turn it over to Jim Brasunas to get started. So, Jim?
You want me to go sit here?
No, yeah. just take the, yes. Or up there if you want to. It's up to you.
This is fine. This is fine. Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to hold your questions until after after everybody has finished presenting, and we have scheduled a question and answer period afterwards. So, Jim, take it.
Okay, thanks. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Brasunas. I'm the Executive Director of I-10, which is the IT Entrepreneur Network. What we're going to be talking about this morning a little bit is the entrepreneur movement in St. Louis, particularly the part of it that I'm involved with, which is around early stage technology companies. So we are a nonprofit organization that works to help build a ecosystem in the region that is supportive of the emergence of new companies focused on technology innovation. We're trying to maximize the number of companies that are developing so that investors can make money, maximize the revenue of the startup companies, and then increase the number of well-paying jobs in the region that are developing as a result of these startup companies. We're funded by a number of organizations up here on the screen. The state of Missouri, through the Missouri Technology Corporation, has been very instrumental in funding I-10. We also get funding from the Kauffman Foundation, which is in Kansas City, and some of these other folks who are corporations in town. So we're very fortunate to have their support. Let's just step back and look at the region in terms of what's happened here in this part of the world over the last couple hundred years. First of all, St. Louis was founded by entrepreneurs, French trappers and traders, missionaries. People were really trying to start something new. So from the very origins of settlement in this part of the country, at least by white folks, this has been an entrepreneurial area. You can even go back to the Cahokias. They founded a new city here. I mean, that's basically ultimately entrepreneurial action. So the history of creating something new and starting something where there was is part of the DNA of this part of the world. And then, St. Louis, the gateway to the West, it was attracting entrepreneurs from all over the world to come here as the great westward movement across North America was happening. So we had a lot of folks coming to St. Louis as a starting off place for doing all kinds of new things, opening up new lands and new adventures and new prosperity. In the 19th century, we had, the emergence of, breweries and, manufacturing, and also, of course, this is a big transportation area with the rivers, and then later with the railroads. St. Louis peaked probably in the late 1800s. I think we were the number 4 city in the country in terms of population after only New York, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. And that kind of culminated with the 1904 World's Fair. I think the 20th century, marked a period of, the growth of larger corporations. St. Louis became pretty much a corporate town, but in some ways, I think there was some, lack of that entrepreneur energy that was a hallmark of what was happening here before that. So St. Louis kind of went into a decline. I think now we're, somewhere around 17 or 18 in terms of metropolitan area size in the country. So what's happening now, which is very exciting, is there are a lot of startup companies happening in St. Louis. It's been going on for a while, but the last 2 or 3 years really has caught the attention of the local press. We've got new groups of funders coming up, and so there's a lot of new activity and energy around startup companies. So we do, with I-10, we do 5 things really, are basic things. First of all, really help the development of individual companies by helping them find the talent that they need and also finding the funding that they need. We also put on events and do other things to help try to build the larger ecosystem of support around startup companies, and then we try to strengthen our own capabilities. Part of that's by securing funding and developing our staff. This chart sort of shows what we do. If you look at the top, from left to right, it's basically the way startup companies develop. They don't always follow this path, but basically from concept stage, a couple of folks have an idea about creating a new software service that does something, or an app that helps you find where the nearest program management symposium is going to be. Something like that. So you come up with an idea, and then you start working on that idea, see if it's got legs, and eventually get to the point where you've got a prototype, and then you go and talk to investors, see if somebody will give you some money so you can get it developed, and then hopefully at some point, either through IPO or through acquisition, you have a successful exit. So we have a curriculum of programs, those little arrows underneath, the concept development program, really working with companies at the very early stage to help them develop their idea. We have a BMV, or Business Model Validation Program, where they work with a number of our volunteer mentors to make sure that the business model is sound. And then that culminates in our Mock Angel program, which is a preparation for presentation to investors. We've had 24 graduates from that program, the Mock Angel program, 75% of whom have gotten outside funding. So we've had a success story there, and a number of the companies that have graduated from that program a few years ago are growing very fast, revenues ramping up well, and they've added a lot of employees. We've just started an Entrepreneur in Residence program. This is a little bit different, where we're actually hiring somebody to work hands-on with 4 or 5 of our most promising companies. That entrepreneur in resident is often a serial entrepreneur who's looking for their next opportunity. So as these companies that they're working with develop, at some point they may choose to join that company, and that's their next big experience. I mentioned a little bit about talent. We'll talk about that in a minute, but finding the talent that these companies need is a challenge. And with almost everything we found with I-10, developing it over the last 5 years, is that most of the things that we think are lacking in the region, it's just that they're hidden. They're not connected. So our talent initiative really is to make sure that our companies have access to the talent that is already here. And if new training is needed and stuff like that, we try to help work with universities and other talent development groups to make sure that the talent that's being developed here is going to match the opportunities that these startup companies are providing. And then finally, the last arrow at the bottom talks about all the networking events that we have, including being involved with Gateway to Innovation, a conference that happens here every spring. We're very much involved in, and I'm on the steering committee for that this year. There we go. Just a little bit about some of the other organizations. If you're reading the Business Journal these days, some of these are mentioned. The Archangels, it's an investor group that has been around for quite a while, so they look at companies, and it's really a group of high net worth individuals that write checks out of their own, wealth to put into startup companies. CIC, it's a Cambridge Innovation Center. It grew up in Boston. They're just announced they're coming to the Cortex area, so that's going to be like a new incubator at Cortex. Capital Innovators is what's called an accelerator program. They take 5 startup companies every 6 months, put $50,000 into each one, try to advance them very quickly, and then get other investors to come in. T-Rex is a location downtown where a lot of startup tech companies are. T-Rex has just bought a new building on Washington Avenue, so there's going to be a movement from where they were to where they're going to be. The Helix Fund and Helix Center is an arm of St. Louis County that really supports primarily biotech companies, but they've recently expanded to support IT companies as well. Arch Grants gives away money for companies that move to our region, primarily downtown. So they've attracted a number of very interesting companies that I-10 has worked with. The Billiken Angels is an investor group out of St. Louis University. Cultivation Capital is a higher level investor group that is putting money into companies that have come through I-10, come through Capital Innovators and Arch Grants, so they're kind of the next level of funding. A lot of the universities are involved, particularly Washington University, SLU, to a lesser extent SIUE, but we're always looking to increase that kind of collaboration. And then 630 is a new incubator just announced in St. Louis that focuses on financial services companies that are being brought here from around the world. 4 of them each year. The accelerator puts $100,000 in each one and tries to advance it as quickly as possible. So there's a real ecosystem developing here, and I-10 works with about 300 companies now, 450 since we started. You know, a lot of them kind of die along the way, but there's more coming in than are leaving, by the back door. So I think that, stepping back and looking at what's going on and thinking about, okay, what kind of opportunities does all this activity present for people in program management and project management, I think there's quite a bit. We had an event yesterday afternoon that focused on one aspect of what startup companies need and are struggling with, which is managing very properly the outsourcing of their technology development. In other words, if I've got a startup company that wants to develop a certain kind of an app, and it's me and a partner, and we're basically trying to fund the company with our own credit cards, we're looking for the way to most economically develop that app if neither one of us are coders. In other words, we're people that have general business experience or marketing experience or something like that. We think we've got something that's really going to be of interest to a lot of people, but we don't know how to build it. So we're going to outsource that either to somebody else in the community or sometimes to somebody overseas. That presents a real challenge in terms of managing that whole relationship between the two of us that are running the company and this organization that we may or may not have FaceTime with. So I think there's real opportunities in that area alone for people who are interested in helping manage that aspect, either working for the company as a part of the company itself or as a consultant. The other challenge, there are a number of challenges that folks who are used to working for large corporations have when they look at the opportunity for what does it mean to work with a startup company. Most of these folks can't pay a full salary. Many of them are pre-funding. In other words, they haven't gotten that investor funding yet. So at that stage, they're looking for people who really believe in what they're doing and are willing to work for either deferred salary or a deferred salary and equity, meaning they get a part of the company for being, basically working for it. So it really is an opportunity for folks who don't need a regular paycheck right now, that they can afford to have that deferred, or let's say they're retired And then this opportunity really is there if you want to take the risk that it's a risk similar to the founders of the company. You're not probably going to be asked to put your own money into the company, although that's always would be a nice thing to have if you're joining a company. But if you're looking to take equity so that when the company gets sold, it may end up being a lot more than what a salary would have been. So that's a consideration. Startups, like I said, a lot of them are 2, 3, 4 people at the very beginning, and so you're not going to have a whole lot of silos in an operation like that. In fact, each person, it's kind of all hands on deck, and everybody's going to be asked to do everything. My first experience, I'd worked for a large corporation for about 11 or 12 years, and then went into a startup, and I was the 6th or 7th person into this company, and I felt like I'd walked off the edge of a cliff, because you don't know to what extent you just come to expect all kinds of support and practices and procedures around how the company does business. You don't realize how much you've taken that for granted until you go into a situation where none of that exists, and you still have to make things happen. So you really have to create everything. So it's exhilarating, but it's not for everybody. So, thinking about, and even if you're not the founder of the company, even if you're the 5th or 6th person into the company, you're going to have a similar experience, which is very exciting. It means every day is very different than the day before. So, now, in ways to get connected, on our site, which I've got down there at the bottom, i10stl.org, we've got a list of our Mock Angel graduate companies, so you can go in there and click on them and see what their business is all about and whatnot. Those are the ones that generally have been funded. A lot of them are paying full salaries and stuff like that. So, at a certain stage, as companies get more revenue or they get a large chunk of investor money, they're able to pay salaries. So that list of Mock Angel graduates, you can check that out. The other thing is we list jobs on our site. So if you're interested in opportunities, you can look there and see the job listings. Just a word on that. If a company is posting a job that they need, and it maybe doesn't fit exactly what your skills or interests are, I wouldn't let you put that off. I'd go ahead and contact the company, because there's a good chance that they need a lot more than what they're saying in the particular job posting. And in some cases, if the company is composed of a few people that have a background, let's say, in marketing, and yet they know they need some kind of technical or project management experience, they may not know enough about what they really need to be able to make an accurate job description. So I would go ahead and follow up on any company that looks interesting and just talk to them about it. And again, like I'm saying, if you're looking for a totally different experience, I would recommend checking out startup companies, and especially in the tech space. It's a lot of excitement, and the rewards can be great, but it's also a risky opportunity these days. So, and then the last thing is also listed on our website are some of our events. So if you're interested in getting to know a little bit more about what's going on in the tech space, I would recommend checking out those events and coming. So, there's a lot going on, and I think that for people in project management, okay, so here's my final statement. An emerging spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, presenting new opportunities for those who are willing to join in with a give-first attitude. And that really is kind of a hallmark of what's going on in St. Louis in the entrepreneur space, is that it's really an all-for-one, one-for-all feeling right now. It's an early stage of what is really an explosion of new kinds of creativity, and there's a lot of collaboration and just wanting to help out and be part of it. So if you have some of that kind of spirit, and it's really helping to change the culture of our community, I encourage you to get involved, if not as a active participant, at least to come to some of the events and see what's going on. So thank you for your attention.
All right. So Jim has talked to us about what's happening sort of in the world of IT. And while IT really is the underpinning of everything that goes on, our next two speakers, Jim LaChance and Tom Rice, are going to be talking about other kinds of project management or opportunities that are taking place, an entire range of them. So I'm going to turn this over to Jim LaChance, and he's going to talk to you about what's happening in the area of healthcare, which is actually a lot.
Thank you, Sandra. So we can hear me? So I work for BJC Corporation. I've been there for about 1.5 years, close to 2 years, I guess. I'm the group manager in the Center for Clinical Excellence. And really what the Center for Clinical Excellence does is we are going out through the hospitals trying to do some improvement in terms of how patients are cared for. Shared systems are improved in terms of how the hospital has grown, so we'll get to that a little bit. The first thing we want to talk about is really what's going across the hospital industry in general. As you notice, you've been listening to the news, there's all kinds of things in terms of healthcare reform, there's all kinds of things, Obamacare, that are going on. They are infecting and having a big impact on the hospital industry. And particularly BJC is feeling those impacts. We've seen numerous things in terms of reimbursements that are starting to decrease. And so it's really driving the corporation to go into a place where they're looking at lean processes in terms of shared services to reduce some of our costs, and then also to get make sure that our patient-centered outcomes are done correctly. So all of these things become projects within the organizations in healthcare in general. So there's a tremendous demand for project management skills in the healthcare industry. And then on top of that, because healthcare has become a little bit better, there are declining stays, particularly in our area. So in other words, folks would be staying for 2, 3, 4 nights in the hospital. Now they're trying to get them out quicker when they have operations. So that's also impacting the revenue that's being generated at hospitals. So at BJC in particular, the Affordable Care Act and some of the other items are really having an impact on what our reimbursements are. In other words, how much we get paid every time somebody goes into the hospital from a Medicare or Medicaid standpoint. And so that's decreasing our revenues a little bit, and to the tune of maybe 1% to 2%, which the hospital industry has never really seen before. Everything has always been kind of an increase. Everything has been generally profitable for many, many years. So now they're seeing this burning platform across the country in terms of decreased revenues and how do we continue to be profitable. At BJC in particular, we're doing several things, and it's happened across other industries throughout the years, where they're realizing that coming together and sharing your services is the way to be profitable and the way to be positioned for growth in the future and to improve things. So we sit right now with 3 LLCs that are out there, one with St. Luke's, one with Cox Health, and one with Southern Illinois Hospital Corporation. All of those are designed to basically double the size of our corporation over the next maybe 4 to 5 years. And really it's a matter of going through shared services. Obviously the hospitals themselves and the doctors and physicians are not generally shared. Ideas, thoughts are shared across those, but the bigger portion of that is the sharing of human resources, IT, any type of process improvements, and we'll get to that a little bit. So what you're going to see across BJC is growth. We've steadily done that throughout the years, and again, a lot of it is due through project management skills. As we take on these companies, there's different things in terms of how we bring it all together. So, as I mentioned, BJC is a not-for-profit organization. That doesn't mean that we don't want to make a profit, doesn't mean that we don't want to be positioned for years. And with that, the lean processes that I mentioned before and the use of project managers with the shared services has really come to the forefront. And one of the things with BJC that I don't know that I come out of an industry, out of commercial industry. One of the big differences that I see with BJC is something that we use this equation where effectiveness is equal to quality times acceptance. And really what that means is any project that we're putting into it, the challenge that we face is we get a very good technical solution, but because of the way the organization, the way it's designed, the way it's grown, it's very tough to get that to happen. So in other words, in a commercial industry, if the CEO says we're going to do this, you go out and do that. In a hospital organization, it's a little bit different. It's tough to tell a physician or a nurse or a caregiver, we need to do this. It's definitely a culture that's different. It has a different pace. And so those are some of the challenges that we face on a daily basis in terms of project managers as they come into BJC. So, as I mentioned, my group is the Center for Clinical Excellence, and we're basically comprised of project managers, IT professionals. We have process improvement professionals, change management professionals, and also communications professionals. So, long story short, the project managers are kind of at the heart of that, making sure that we're pulling in the right groups, again, to manage our shared services for the most part within the hospital industry. So a tremendous amount of opportunity there. But again, it takes a style. It takes an ability to go out and communicate and become that liaison across. It's not just a matter of putting together a project schedule and saying, okay, here it is. It's really about making those groups work together that normally hadn't worked together, because that's the way the hospital industry has grown up and is beginning to change. So I wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of my path. There we go. It's a little bit circuitous, but really, what I'm driving at here is you don't have to be a management person. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a process improvement person to be a project manager. It's really about the soft skills. It's really about learning how to relate with people, how to get people to work together, getting that shared vision going, coordinating. So you can see I guess I've done a few things. So really those are the hard skills. Obviously we have to go in and make sure you have your project management fundamentals. Be able to run projects, you need to be able to run a plan, you need to be able to know who to talk to. There's certain things that you just have to be organized about. But again, the PI skill portion of it is, at BJC, it does help to have a technical background. And technical background either in type of lean manufacturing, black belt type training is definitely a plus when we're looking at BJC as well as other hospital organizations. We do touch supply chain, we do touch revenue cycle management, we do touch IT. So any of those types of backgrounds certainly help. And then as I mentioned, soft skills, one of our basic concepts within CCE are our soft skills, and particularly facilitation. Within the hospital organization, a friend of mine once told me, if you work outside of this industry, it's generally companies put together by businessmen, put together by engineers, economists, whoever's put them together, IT specialists, and they work that direction, right? They have a tendency to be very direct. We start here and we go here, and here's a time frame. Within a hospital organization, the way they've grown is you have doctors and nurses who realize that there were business needs across organizations, but they have a different focus. Their focus is always to get everything right the first time, because they're generally working with patients, and so they're very cautious, and there's a very different time frame when you're working inside of a healthcare industry, at least particularly with BJC there is. And I've noticed it across some of the other organizations that I've worked with. So one of the things coming from a different outside industry that I really would want to emphasize here is that your patience will be tried as you begin to go in. If you're used to very fast pace, hospitals are not. And they are very similar to what I've seen in industries throughout the years that has changed as well. Hospitals tend to be very siloed, as well as the shared service organizations. There's not a tremendous amount of sharing, and that's one of the places that's really drastically changing in healthcare as we move forward. So those are some of the fun challenges. Some of the things I really like about the job is the fact that we're beginning to see that change move across the organizations. So as I mentioned, one of the big things that are changing within the hospital organization is there is a great need for project management skills. But don't just think in terms of, I need to understand how to do Microsoft Project, or I need to know how to do this. Understand that there's a tremendous amount of interpersonal skills that are going to go along with this. So here's our main BJC website if you want to go in and take a look at the corporation. Again, we're well positioned, we're a healthy company. There's a tremendous amount of things on there, as well as our BJC jobs and careers are also listed on this website. And I guess that's about it.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. All right, now we're going to shift gears again, and we're going to look into the area of cybersecurity, security, and technology planning. And Tom Rice from Ameren, Missouri is going to tell us about that.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Rice. About 2 years ago, I took over cybersecurity for Ameren Corporation, which actually supports Ameren, Illinois, Ameren, Missouri, and our transmission companies. I'm 30 years old, and I had jet black hair then, and you can see what has happened to me. So one of the things that I realized when I took over the group, and I'm a little older than that, but in order to do a lot of things well, especially in the cybersecurity space, we need extremely strong project management. Our industry, getting cybersecurity right to keep the grid up, to keep power going to your homes is critically important. And we're struggling with decades of doing things in engineering systems without project management. So, as we move forward, we're trying to put in new solutions and maintain old ones. So I just wanted to stress, project management, in my mind, and I think for Ameren's mind, is the way out and the path forward for a lot of the things facing not only Ameren, but the utility industry. So, slides. There they go. So Ameren, powering the quality of life, we'll just move on. So as I said, our industry is faced with, there we go, significant changes and pressures. And this is not only an Ameren problem, but it's an industry challenge. So you can see some of the things up there. I'll just mention a few. Aging infrastructure. We have a lot of systems and solutions that were put in before I was born. Some of them were more than 50 years old. We have new technologies that are coming in that we're starting to take advantage of, and the technologies are evolving as we're deploying them, which presents challenges both in operations and for the project managers. Can you imagine starting a project that's, say, 2.5 years long, and the technology, the fundamental technology that you are deploying may turn over twice while you're trying to run that project? So when Jim at BJC talked about, you start here and you end here, it just doesn't work that way anymore. You start, and then Lord knows where you will end up. So you have to deal with that. The customer expectations, your expectations of what you get from your utility company are completely different than what they did in the past. So we have to meet those expectations. We have to meet our regulators' expectations. So again, our industry is going under meaningful transformation. The way we deliver electricity and gas to your homes, to our businesses, is going to completely change. So we're trying to figure all that out as an industry and figure it out at Ameren. There we go. So the utility of the future. What are we going to have to do to meet your expectations, our investors' expectations, the country's expectations? You can see the things up there. Streamlined operations, a step change in operational efficiency. Jim mentioned that they're deploying the lean methodology to optimize things at BJC. We're doing exactly the same thing at Ameren. And it's going to take that type of change to get that operational improvement in our cost. Flexible and upskilled workforce, intelligent assets, and then you see in the middle, safe and secure operations of our system. And I tell my people on the cybersecurity side, the next time the United States goes into a meaningful war, the electric industry will probably be one of the battlefields. Cyber warfare is real. We take it seriously at Ameren, and to protect those assets against whatever may be thrown at us is a daunting challenge. And it takes a lot of people focused on a lot of things to make sure that we're able to survive whatever is thrown at us. So I'm going to talk more about that, but I did want to mention that. The other thing on the flexible and upskilled workforce, I was thinking there was a Forrester study done last year, and I should have included the slide, but it basically said that within the utility sector, traditionally within IT. Between 15 and 20% of the jobs were made up by project managers, cybersecurity people, business analysts, and technical architects. And they're saying within 3 years, to meet the needs faced on the industry, that number is going to have to inverse. So 80% of my IT staff is going to be made up by business analysts, project managers, cybersecurity people, and technical architects. So you talk about a skill transformation along with a technology transformation. Pretty exciting times. Not, Jim here said, not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So to give you an example of how we're going to accomplish what's going to be asked of you, and I'll go through these relatively quickly. So our Ameren Transmission Company, $2.2 billion of capital investments in the next 5 years compared to $500 million the prior 5 years. A lot of that is putting in transmission lines, but a lot of that is technology. A lot of that is we're actually putting in a very robust integrated project management system to manage all of that. So it's not just construction projects. But I just wanted to give you an idea of the amount of investment that we have to deliver. Ameren, Illinois, $2.5 billion compared to $1.5 billion. Ameren, Missouri, $3.4 billion compared to $3.2. Not a lot of meaningful investment there, but still big, big numbers. So just to give you an idea how much is coming. Information technology, where do we fit into this? So I wanted to go a little bit over this. This is how we support the business at Ameren. So you can see the focus areas on the left. You have earnings growth, operational excellence, customer value, and customer community vitality. And then what the business is trying to pull off. And you can see what is listed there. And then IT works to support the business capabilities. We don't do IT for IT's sake. But you can see cybersecurity, it's a key business capability. It's not just an IT problem, it's a business problem. And you can see that IT has to support that. If you notice about maybe 2/3 down, engineering and construction project management. So project management was identified 18 months ago by all of Ameren as being a key business capability that they needed to have to succeed. The business told us that. So you guys should welcome that news. They're saying it takes the people sitting in this room to do what they need to do. And then we've got to figure out how to support that. So couple of strategic objectives that we're working on, again, at Ameren IT, supporting the corporations. I won't go over all of these, but you can see cybersecurity is key. Transformation of our energy networks is key. Customer engagement and satisfaction. Historically, utilities have not given a lot to our customers other than a bill, and taken much from our customers other than payment for your bill. That's all changing. There's this consumerization of the utility industry. You expect to be able to look at your bill on your phone, see what your electric usage is, change your consumption of energy based on what you want to do. You know, sustainability and conservation is becoming a way we start to think. So we have to give you access to that information that historically we never thought you wanted to have, so we just kept it inside. So now we're figuring out how best to do that. And then listening to you, telling us how you can contribute in lowering your electric cost and how we can better serve you. So this whole customer dialogue and interaction that didn't exist a long time ago is becoming critical going forward. And then increased employee productivity. And I think this is really key for project managers. We need people with extreme soft skills, people that are willing to be empowered, willing to make decisions, and accountable for the decisions and are driving forward. Some of the key projects, they're up there. I'm not going to go over these. They probably only mean stuff to us, but you can see a lot of new and emerging technologies. And some of these technologies are changing as we're deploying them, are brand new. So I've got one of my project managers here that's working on the Smart Grid Communication Network and AMI. Changes every month. And again, I might have under-exaggerated, John, on the technology changing, but I bet it changes 4 times before you get it done. Just crazy, fun, He's still got his hair. It's starting to turn gray. So project management. This is how I view project management. Project management within IT support rolls up into my organization. So this is what it is. And I need all of that. But here's what's really needed. Need leadership. You have to have the ability to influence people, not only within your project team, but throughout the organization. You know, Jim mentioned that, you know, if you deliver a project and at BJC, if it's not accepted, you don't get the business value. The same thing is true, I think, with any project. If you get it done on time, on schedule, and you meet all the quality things, but it's not embraced by the business, then a large part of the business value is lost. So being able to influence people to embrace and accept what you're rolling out, I think, is key. Teamwork, communications, to pull that off. The ability to work and contribute team success. Tailor your message. More and more times I'm asking my project managers to go meet with senior business leaders to tell them what is going on. Is the investment going on? Do they need more money? What is the senior leaders looking at from the project? What are the customers looking at from the project? What do the technical people need to know? What are cybersecurity's concerns? So one style of communicating doesn't work. So you need to tailor your message so that the people you're communicating are heard and so that you are heard. Nothing works well without communication. I think you need electric and you need communication, and then we can get through most everything else. And I don't like email, so you got to be comfortable talking to people. Challenge the status quo. The electric systems are basically 100 plus years old, and we haven't changed them much since. And we're bringing in all this new stuff. We're a company of engineers. We have one way of thinking, and that's it, and that thinking isn't going to get us there in the future. So we need people to come in from the outside. You don't need to be an electrical engineer. You don't need to be a mechanical engineer. You don't need to be an IT specialist. You need to be somebody who thinks good, communicates well, and is willing to challenge and ask questions. Because we need to transform. We don't need to subtly adjust. We need to fundamentally change. So we welcome these outside perspectives. I came from the outside. They welcomed me. I'm still there. I came for a temporary job assignment, and I've been there for 14 years. The other thing is recognize potential problems early. Create an environment, and I think this is more on the leadership at Ameren or any company. And I would ask that your project, a lot of you have project committees that manage your projects. Look for an environment where bad news is welcomed early. Too many times I see in the projects at Ameren, the project managers are reluctant to say that they're off schedule, they are, the budget is getting tight, they can't get a resource. They're reluctant to bring that news forward. We can't help unless you tell us early that you have a problem. And the earlier you tell us, the better we can help rearrange resources and help you accomplish what you're doing. So I think part of this, it's again about creating communications and trust that we welcome bad news. You shouldn't be scared to go and tell somebody that, something's not going right, because then you may hesitate in doing it. And then offer solutions and workarounds. You're probably closer to the problem and closer to understanding what a viable solution is than anybody else on that project team, because you have access to everybody on the project team. So leverage that team to figure out what is the workaround, what might be an alternative solution. And the last thing, especially at Ameren, is security and compliance and awareness. We need to build things in a way that they can be operated securely and safely. It's about sustainability. So yes, you need to get the project done and you need to meet all of your project requirements, but once that solution goes into production and you've turned it over and we're operating it, we need to understand how to operate it. We need to make sure that we can operate it safely and securely. So think beyond the end of the project. The other thing I would ask from a cybersecurity perspective, bring in the cybersecurity people really, really early, like on day one. It is a lot easier to mitigate cybersecurity risk, whether they are within hardware or microcode or networks or application code, early than after it's built. There are some estimates that say that once code goes into production, to fix a cybersecurity exposure will take 15 times the hours that it would have taken to fix it up front. So I know when you're dealing with a project and you have a tight schedule, and then the cybersecurity guys are going to say they're going to need, 500 hours thrown into this thing, and you're like, I don't know where I'm going to fit it in. That's where you bring bad news early and you say, we got to spend 500 hours now, or you're going to spend 250,000 hours later. So we all saw what happened with, the grocery store over in Missouri. You don't want to be part of something like that, right? And they didn't welcome bad news early. They were a little late getting the news out, so. Opportunities at Ameren, I just put this up there. You can see the link for the permanent jobs at Ameren.com. We use temporary labor a lot. Guidant Group is the firm that manages a lot of that, so you can look there. If you go out on Ameren.com right now, you won't see a lot of openings for project management jobs. Part of the reason is we use the temporary labor model a lot this year because we're divesting one part of our company, so we've been bringing employees back from that part of the company and having them fill project management jobs. But I expect next year and later this year, you're going to see a lot more job opportunities out there. I mentioned the companies within IT. We're seeing a 25% increase in IT investments from 2013 to 2014. So 2014, the business is asking us to invest $90 million in IT projects. So that's a big number for us, so somewhat daunting as well. So that is all I have, I believe.
We're going to now we're going to open it up for questions. I'm sure all of you have lots of questions for these folks up here. What I'm going to ask you to do is to hold up your hand. We have students here that have microphones, and they're going to bring it to you. So questions, hold up your hand, please. Over here.
This is for the entire panel. I was trying to get a feel for what percentage of the PMs are focused in the IT area versus other areas like construction, lean project management, and other.
I can speak to BJC. We're probably 60% of the program managers today at BJC are IT related. I don't know the breakout from PD&C, the construction versus the other shared services, but it comprises about 40% of that group.
With early stage companies, I think you could almost look at every one of them as a project on its own. In other words, starting a company and trying to get a product built and developed, it's a project. And, I-10 focuses on those companies that are basically in the IT space, which is, internet companies, social media, cybersecurity. We have some of those companies, big data companies, but they're all early stage trying to get things going. Now, once they get funding and they start, diversifying and focus on, customer fulfillment and stuff like that, again, you've got project management needs there. So I think for I-10, for the startup companies, you can look at each one of them as a project on its own.
At Ameren, I'm not sure if I can answer the question, just because it's so big and there's so many types of projects and project managers going on. I expect within IT and the projects that we influence throughout the corporation that are related to IT, we'll probably have 50 project managers on the ground, as that is their full-time job next year. And then there's all variations of people that are doing project management type things, whether it's lean or cybersecurity. And then even though we're doing a lot of the construction projects, those construction engineers and people out in the field are relying on technologies and new things on the back end. So when it starts to get into analytics or scheduling and things like that. They, again, rely on people that are more using technology to support field construction crews, even if they're in the plants, a similar thing. So, but by the dollars, we're going to need a lot of help.
Okay, more questions? Yeah.
A lot of the information that we've seen on the presentations looks like information that I would like to have reference to. Are these presentations going to be available for us?
Yes, they're all going to be posted on the website, which again is in your packet. It's posted on the session note pages. So everything is going to be there and available. There were some questions down over in here.
This question's for Mr. Rice. In your presentation, you talked about an integrated across-the-board project management solution that you guys are implementing. Can you give a little more detail on that?
I'll tell you what I know. I don't know all the pieces. So traditionally, Ameren has used Microsoft Project for most of the IT projects, and some parts of the company use that, or they used Primavera for some of the construction projects. With the larger construction projects and the amount of spend going through Ameren now, they are embracing Primavera in a major way to manage a lot of these projects. They are integrating it. I think the system is EcoSys from a estimating, and then there's a scheduling piece in there. So they are really trying to put in a solution that is integrated to bring in the financials, the scheduling, as well as some of the other things to tie it all together so that they can effectively manage those resources and get this spend in service when it is expected to. I'll go just a little longer on the answer. The way that regulated utilities make money is by investing capital dollars in solutions to support our customers. Once those solutions go into service and are in use, then we start to earn a rate of return on those capital investments. So it is imperative for us to meet our shareholders' expectations and our customers' expectations that these projects, those investments in billions of dollars of capital that you saw up there, they happen in the fiscal year that they're targeted to. So that's why there's this new energy and new focus on doing project management much better than we have historically done it in the past. So did that answer your question?
Okay. We've got a question here in front. I know we've got some back in there. If we could get our microphones up to these folks quickly.
I have a question for I-10. Is this on? Sorry. My question is, on the life cycle of companies, they obviously go for a long time. The life cycle for early startups, is there an average life cycle for that before they move out of that cycle?
The life cycle, I think generally the statistics for startup companies lasting more than 2 or 3 years is not huge. But also there are statistics about job creation, and most of the net job creation in the country is by companies that are less than 5 years old. The net job creation by large corporations, which most people think is where most of the job creation really happens, is not there. It's in early stage companies, which is very interesting. This comes from a study the Kauffman Foundation did. But to get back to your question, I say, we've been at it for 5 years, and we've come in contact with and worked with about 450 companies. Approximately 275 to 300 of them are currently active. So, and then the ones that are coming out of our Mock Angel program, which represent roughly 10% of the active companies, they're really moving ahead very quickly and adding customers, or adding employees, and getting additional investments. So you know, if I had to say what's the average life cycle of a company, you're taking a lot of them that are kind of dying within the first year, and then you're talking to other ones that are going well and growing fast after 5 years. So, you know, maybe 3 years, something like that, if I had to put a number on it. But again, it's, you know, you've got some of them that are going to do this and other ones that are going to do that. And it's not like investing in a mutual fund. It's like investing in an individual stock. So a mutual fund is going to have, you know, hopefully good returns, but, you know, pretty, you know, from one point of view, boring returns, but, you know, 3, 5%, 10%. You invest in an individual stock, and it's, you know, going to have 40%, or it's going to have, you know, a negative 40% return. So
What tools, you were speaking to the rate of return, what tools are you using to make sure that you track that and you're able to see that within that target year?
So it's different for each state, so I don't want to go, I won't go into it. We can maybe talk at a break if you want to know. But basically, it's basically our accounting tools. We refer to it as our regulatory accounting set of books, so that's how we measure things. But simply put, the capital projects have a budget, and when those capital projects go into service, then the investment that took to get that portion of that project into service is then recognized by the business that owns the asset, and then they can start to earn a rate of return on that. And then there's a lot of challenges around when that event happens, and then when it is recognized in our rates. We refer to that as regulatory lag. So we try to minimize the regulatory lag from when an investment goes into service to when we can actually start earning recovery on it. And the transmission company has the best regulatory environment from our perspective. Ameren, Illinois is the next best and almost as good as the transmission. And then Ameren, Missouri is the most challenging for us, so it's just how it works. But we can talk later if you want. You're welcome.
Hi, this question is for all of you. With so many projects going on in your organizations, are you doing anything to assure that the benefits that you're planning to get are being reported and tracked in a consistent way, that the reporting across the projects is consistent, that you're maximizing your potential to share resources across projects is there?
I'll go first. So based on the size of the project, we have more eager participants to make sure we're doing it consistently than a project manager may want, but that's just sometimes how it goes. I will say a lot of the other things you said, are you sharing resources effectively? Are you getting the results that you wanted? We honestly struggle. We know we need to do that, and we know we need to do better at it. Candidly, I don't know what the answer is. I think we still are collectively looking for a way to pull that off. So if you have the answer, maybe we should talk.
This question is for Jim. You noted that JBC is in a transition period, given the new health laws and reforms. And I was wondering how this has changed the way your project managers work. For example, is it taking more time to build trust with team members who may be concerned about their jobs?
You know, absolutely. Within the healthcare, with all the changes in terms of reducing costs, there's a tremendous amount of concern about, you know, are we just trying to reduce costs? How's that going to impact patients? That's one of the reasons we talk about the outcomes as well. So to develop that level of trust that I'm not just coming in to try to change something to reduce the cost is absolutely paramount to, you know, our success. So yeah, absolutely.
Are there other examples besides the one I provided to lead off the conversation?
Help me out maybe a little bit with the...
Changes to how your project managers work and what skill sets they need in a period of transition versus when you were in a good period of revenues increasing year after year.
Okay, so again, I'm pretty new with the organization. Okay. And from my perspective, what I've seen is a bigger growth in terms of project managers working outside of IT. I think primarily for the longest time with BJC, most of the project managers were IT related. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's definitely different than what I've seen in terms of project managers outside of the industry, coming in and working within this industry.
And I'm sorry, we are out of time. We are finished with the panel. I don't know whether or not you noticed, but this panel basically sort of sets up our 4 breakout sessions for the morning. We have one on quickly assessing organizational culture. Jim talked to it, Tom talked to it, and Jim Brasunas talked to it in terms of what do you do when you land in some of these really different environments. We also have project management skills that are in demand, as well as one on cybersecurity. So any of these will give you sort of a deeper look into some of these issues that have been brought out. Right now, I'd like to tell you also that at the Scottrade table, we do have an HR representative, so we want to add that to the mix of the of employment possibilities that this panel has brought to you. And please join me now in thanking our panelists for a great presentation.